I was like, but then that they demonstrated that.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, January 18th, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, minutes and reports received and filed.
We received the collector's December 2021 fees.
Okay. Commissioner Committee Liaison reports, upcoming meetings and events.
Today, I have a Heartland Executive Committee meeting. We're going to meet with the Corps of Engineers and our engineer, Bar. This evening, a city work session and then a council meeting where they're going to look at the MOU that we're going to work on today. Also, I have on the calendar a Public Safety Committee meeting this afternoon, and I think we're invited to a tour out at Compass, a new, that's this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make that.
Good. Tomorrow, Transportation Committee hearing. Thursday, Heartland Port meeting. I've got something on the calendar for emergency response to rail incidents.
Yeah, that's Monday. That's
Monday?
something Nick's going to be on.
Okay.
But that's Monday, 9 to 11.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
my calendar.
today I'm gonna try to go out to Compass Health. Wednesday is our medical WebEx. Thursday, I got an MRI. Monday's the emergency response to rail incidents, so that's all I've got. Yeah, if you were Lions Club, that'd be $1 fine.
Thought I had it turned off.
Okay, commission comments? No. Bids and contracts. Discussion of EMS medical waste disposal and presentation of contract with Stereocycle.
All right, I should have pulled that. I forgot that was on there. There were some difficulties with our current contract, so I'm going to table that.
Okay.
for future.
Okay. Table. Approval and signing of Teleflex sole source.
With all four of these sole sources that are on the agenda today, they're ones that we renew every year. So they've already ran in the paper, and so I'll just need approval and signing for all four of these. Teleflex, their Teleflex needles are the only compatible option for the EMS's current equipment. They use the sole source as needed, if needed, throughout the year.
Okay.
So I'm just needing signing and approval on the sole source.
Okay, motion to approve and sign the Teleflex sole source.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approval and signing for Henry M. Atkins and Son sole source.
This one's for the clerk's office, so they can do the programming and printing for the election ballots.
Motion to approve and sign the Henry M. Atkins and Sons sole source.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval and signing for Accurate Control sole source.
This is for security supplies for the sheriff's department, so they can do upgrades throughout the year. The supplies have to be compatible with their current system.
Motion to approve and sign the Accurate Controls sole source agreement.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval and signing for CNC Group sole source.
This is for the HVAC maintenance over at the sheriff's department. It's used as needed, if needed. There's a particular software on the automation controls, and CNC Group is the only one that can perform the maintenance.
Motion to approve and sign the CNC Group sales source.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, discussion of moving company quote for prosecutor's office.
I put this on the agenda today to see if we wanted to move forward with using a moving company for the prosecutor's office. I had met with Mr. Installation a couple of weeks ago, and he provided me with a quote for $8,640 to move their office of furniture and all their stuff up there. He'd be on site three Three or
4 times.
4 times throughout the whole painting and flooring process.
And that was the only response we received, wasn't
Correct.
it? Okay.
That sounds like a lot, but yeah, moving and moving out, moving back and all that other stuff. That's not something that our maintenance can do. We're not movers.
I do have a quote ready here if you guys want to sign it.
I don't see a choice.
I don't see any other option.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from MR Installation LLC for the moving of the prosecutor office furniture during the remodel.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, signing of the MOU agreement with Federal Emergency Management Agency. Is that
you, Nick?
Nick?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm presenting in person. This is so that we can get use of iPods. That's the
Nick?
system that attaches to Rave, so that we're able to send out non-voluntary
Get him louder.
alerts to
We can't hear you very well,
Nick?
Nick. Hold
Can
on.
you speak up?
Yeah,
Okay,
is that better?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. iPause, this is for iPause so that we can link it with Rave, and that gives us the ability to send voluntary messages throughout the county. Currently, our system is voluntary messages only. This gives us the ability for reporting and especially if we need to have some sort of evacuation or something like that of folks who don't live within our county, but are folks who are just passing through it. Hey, sorry about that.
No, my computer was turned down too, sorry.
Could you just breeze through that one more time, Nick? We had,
Yeah, no problem. no
okay,
problem.
go ahead.
So this gives us iPause capability. This is an MOU that'll give us the ability to have iPause through Rave, which is a current system that we have through the police department. And that gives us the ability to send in voluntary messages. So right now, the only messages that we can send out are people who sign up for our system. And so if we were to have some sort of incident which requires us to alert folks who are not from this county, this would give us the ability to send messages directly to their cell phone. It would give us the ability to send messages through the TV and through weather radios.
So what is the cost on this?
The cost for us should be nothing. Now,
Okay.
Rave has some costs that they associate to turn on this feature, but we've signed a 5-year contract, so I've suggested to Rave that maybe they waive that cost, and I think that's pending.
Okay.
And you recommend, of course,
So
the,
the Rave cost that I know about, they've suggested $2,000 for a one-time fee to turn on this service. And because our contract is a 5-year contract instead of a 3-year contract, which is typical, I think that Rave should be open in waiving that cost.
Nick, did you send us something that needs to be signed?
Yes, there should be an email
I have an
sent
email
out.
from it. I'll get it.
The attachment.
Well, it's the agreement.
I see your, Nick, I see your email this morning, but I didn't see an attachment with it. Perhaps Jill is picking that up right now. Okay.
See if I can find it in my emails, and I can send you the information via email.
Maybe it was. commission's agenda in the scans.
I don't have access to that on this one.
Okay. Nick, you want to hold on and we can go to something?
Yeah, let's just jump to, let's not delay other
Okay.
things, and we'll jump back to this in a minute or two.
Okay. Do we have any unfinished business? New business, accounts payable review.
I'd ask for approval of accounts payable pending review.
Motion to approve accounts payable pending review.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The disc golf parking, we're going to table, I think.
Right. The gentleman that asked us to put it on there asked us to pull it off, so.
Okay. Public Works mailbox policy.
So I presented this, and we've been working on this for a while. I presented it back in December 23rd was the first reading of it, with the idea that we'd come back within a couple weeks for approval. Extended that out another few weeks to accept more comments in from the public, and then also to see how things go internally with this. And we've learned a little bit with the recent storms. We've had some mailboxes damaged. The last one, it was pretty wet snow, and that taught us that we need to adjust for that. That was the most comments that came in were from people saying, well, what if the snow is really wet and it flings out and hits a mailbox and damages it? So we made some tweaks to it. So the policy, it addresses, one, the mailbox size and construction standards. Two is snow and ice policy for damaged mailboxes, and then mailbox claims and repair. And so we tweaked on category 2 under the snow and ice policy for damaged mailboxes, under snow being pushed off the road if it hits a mailbox. And so we made an exception to this when the snow is very wet and drivers are driving too fast for the conditions. And the county road superintendent will review each situation on a case-by-case basis. And that's what we're currently doing right now. I think this fits with where we want to be. The idea is that we get a policy in place, lets the public know what our conditions are, how they should build their mailboxes, how they should take care of them. In the event that we do get some damaged mailboxes, we'll review it on a case-by-case basis, and it allows us a little flexibility to say, no, this mailbox was in poor condition. We shouldn't be responsible for fixing something that was really deferred maintenance on your end. And so hopefully over time, the public will come to understand this and cut down on some of our claims for mailbox repairs, and at the end of the day, save the county taxpayers money and time crews spent out working on it. So that's our goal with this. I think we're in a good position with adding this extra language for the wet snow, and we would recommend approval of the final draft that was sent this morning to you. So, any further questions on it?
No, when I first came in, I had, we had a lot of snow. I think I had like 3 calls because we took down mailboxes. So I do, I sympathize with our citizens, but you're doing your job. And then I was going home and I saw the city, that thing shoots it out like a gun, and I saw it wipe out like 3 mailboxes in one swoop. So it's something you really we're going to have.
Hey,
And,
Sam, you're filibustering your own bill or your position here.
yeah,
so,
yeah. No, I'm fine with
We're
it.
still going to be repairing mailboxes.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt the Public Works mailbox policy as presented.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm just.
You're filibustering is what you're doing.
Now we can't do that anymore. Okay, the coal count.
Well, let's jump back to
Oh.
Nick. I have the memorandum of agreement between the Cole County Emergency Management and the Federal Emergency Management Agency Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, IPAWS, Program Management Office regarding the use of Cole County Emergency Management interoperable systems and IPAWS open platform for emergency networks. known as the IPAWS-Open. I'll make a motion that the presiding commissioners sign on behalf of the county with the MOU with FEMA.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Then we will go to the Cole County, Jefferson City public hearing for CDBG funding for the EMS substation. Before I open it up to public hearing, do we want to have some discussion on?
Yeah, I've already got all those, I just didn't say
We have, Lincoln has provided us with blank community needs assessment forms in case anyone here would like to have a form as he walks through the presentation. They're available.
The needs assessment form is really meant to be kind of answered in open session with input from the public and all present. I've received forms from, or at least initial one from Eric Landwehr and Eric Loy from their departments, but anybody here is free to participate in kind of creating a consensus document essentially for the application. Jeff City has completed a public participation and engagement process for their own applications, and that actually serves as part of our process for the joint application as well. So this kind of fulfills the county's amendment essentially to their public participation process to make sure you guys are represented, and that should the interests of the county are represented in what your top needs are for the county. Again, anybody just wants a copy to participate, it's going to be kind of an open discussion. I'll start basically with kind of a brief overview. This is the Stormwater project public hearing, but I'll start with an overview of the project and the funds and location. And then we'll enter the needs assessment process at the end of that, and we can start the formal hearing. So again, my name is Lincoln Brown with Mid-Missouri Regional Planning Commission. I'm working with the county and the city. The county specifically for the Stormwater project, which is what we're going to talk about first, but the needs assessment hearing is technically going to cover the needs of both projects, even though we have two separate hearings. There's a little bit of different process that we need to cover for the EMS hearing, which we'll have after this one. So, which is kind of outlined in the public hearing notices that were published in the paper last week. So the first project that we're going to talk about is the Stormwater project on South Brooks Drive, and I can let Eric kind of explain a little bit. There's kind of a map. I think it's part of a series of stormwater improvements throughout the Westview Heights neighborhood.
Yes, we started on Westview Heights, South Brooks Drive in particular, about 3 to 4 years ago. Did the first project, phase 1 and 2, as one joint project 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and completed that. This is the last phase, at least on South Brooks Drive. With it, we identified some stormwater detention upstream of that could have a huge impact on the design and the cost of this project. And then as we went through the process, realized that we could go for a Cdbg grant to cover a portion of the cost, just given the low to moderate income area that we're in. And this project would alleviate flooding issues, maintenance issues, and completely take care of the whole area affecting South Brooks Drive, Amanda Drive, Jasper Lane, Bradley Drive, and then a part of Bagnell Drive too. So it's a big, pretty large scale project. Cost estimate is upwards of $1 million.
Yeah, 943 was the estimate on there, and the county is going to be applying for $500,000 in CDBG money, so you would be on the hook for the final 443, roughly. Again, these are cost estimates from the engineer. As he mentioned, to apply for CDBG, you have to meet low to moderate income requirements. The county and Jeff City as a whole, neither actually meet. So you guys undertook, Eric and Matt undertook completing an LMI survey from that community. And we had to reach an 80% response rate of those houses, which we did. I think they finished up with a consultant. Your final LMI, I believe it's actually 1% higher with the last couple surveys that I got. It's 59% low to moderate income in the neighborhood that's affected by this project. So it meets CDBG requirements, the ability to apply for grant money from this program. So now, again, I guess we can open the public hearing and start the needs assessment process if you like, unless you've already opened it, I don't. You said if I wanted to
Well,
get
I
an
wanted a
introduction.
discussion, yeah, we can open
Yep.
the public hearing. Is there anybody here who would like to speak on it?
Well, formally, all of us will be speaking on
Okay,
it. So.
then, let's just keep,
For the process, and again, anybody is welcome to participate and throw in their comments. Again, I've received formal survey responses, I think, from Eric Landwehr and Eric Hoy. But anybody that, at the end of this, that wants to hand one of these in to me, that's fine, but we're also going to be answering these in consensus right now to create a kind of a consolidated document. So it'll all be reported as one document, essentially, as part of the application. So I guess we'll just start with the Public Works and Infrastructure, Section A. And I think we can start with the commission's thoughts on it, and then anybody else that has argument, or if you want to defer to Eric, I think they'd already answered some questions on there, and then if there's any changes that need to be made for their sections, we can make changes to it.
So under Public Works Infrastructure A, going through the list, water system, good. Sanitary sewer system, good. Storm sewer drainage, fair. Streets, fair. Bridges, good. And sidewalks, fair. That's what I would recommend under A.
Does anybody have any comments or changes to that list? Okay.
I'll only mention this, Lincoln, that's, I guess if I were to rank volume of calls and concerns from folks in that area, it's the stormwater issues, so it.
Oh, for the area that's being
Yeah,
cited?
right, it's definitely there, and I think even downstream from there, maybe on the other part of that watershed. So this is a good fit for the concerns expressed by citizens out there.
I will ask, formally, were there any, because Matt's email was on here, did the county receive any formal comment back from the advertisement? Because it is actually soliciting written comment from the public, and if there's any that's been made, then we put those into the record as well. Okay.
I didn't receive it, no. Our office did.
All right, public services. I believe, again, anybody here can participate. I think we've had a couple of responses. I have Eric Hoy's response for fire protection. He has down, I guess you can speak for yourself if you've got
Yeah,
that one.
so public services, fire protection is good, police services is good, code enforcement is good, healthcare is fair, emergency services is fair, parking is good.
Anybody else in the room have changes to be made to that? Or comments to include? Community facilities. I think you guys both have some response on that. We may end up getting some consensus from that from the room after we're finished.
Community facilities, the community center, I believe is good, senior citizen center is good, shelter workshop, good, hospitals, poor, infant daycare is good, mental health counseling service, good, teen youth center is good, drug abuse prevention and rehabilitation is poor, and crime prevention program is good. So obviously in the LMI area that we identified for the EMS substation, there is no access to hospital. There is not a hospital in that identified area. You have to cross Highway 5063. It is not within real walking distance. So it really does kind of limit the access to healthcare at that point. And then for the drug abuse prevention and rehabilitation, this is probably more driven off of the type of calls that we see generated in that area, which would suggest that there is the opportunity to provide more of those services, and really a need from an EMS standpoint due to the type of calls that we see in that area.
Any amendments or any other discussion?
no, I think St. Mary's though is fairly close.
Yeah, so the LMI area that we have kind of, that we're working with for the EMS substation pretty much stops at Highway 63 and then moves east down towards East McCarty and is drawn again by Highway 63 on the, 54 on the west side, and then 5063 on the south side, and then extends down to East McCarty out into the areas ending pretty much right at the correctional facilities out there. So,
How would you rate services countywide, separate from just talking about the area specifically too?
sure, I think, under normal circumstances, having two healthcare facilities for a population of this size is probably fairly good. However, as we've seen in talking with our partners over the past couple weeks here, when we are taxed, the system is easily overwhelmed. So it really depends on what's going on.
The conditions of
I would also comment that the mental health services are not good. I would say they're in the fair to poor range, depending on what part of the community you're in, but overall, I would not rate them as good. That's my opinion.
I think you're more qualified to speak on that. So, I'm comfortable making that change.
So fair to poor, which would you mark?
I don't know if I'd go as fair, but
You would go with fair or
No.
poor, or actual poor?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say poor.
Okay. Is that-
Agreement? All right. So that's one of the changes. Community facilities, again, I think you guys, some people have already worked on these, if you have any comment. Who wants to take a lead on discussion there for what they've got recorded?
Sure. For housing, again, residential rehabilitation is fair. Housing for the disabled, I have as fair. Single-family housing is fair. Affordable rental housing is fair. Lead-based paint abatement, making an educated guess there, good. Energy efficiency improvements, good. Homeownership assistance, good. Senior housing is good based on the 2 towers and city-backed facilities.
Any additional comment or changes?
I would probably say the lead-based paint is probably fair. We still have quite a few older homes, and we still get calls with children who have elevated blood leads, and we do investigations on those and have to do recommend abatements of those properties. Because of the age of some of the housing, I would say fair.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Hey, I'm the new guy, so.
Educational profiles. Who wants to take the lead on this one?
My turn. Come on, it's your
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
Okay, going off of what the group worked on last week, fair in all categories, preschools, public schools, vocational schools, community colleges, universities, continuing education, employer-based skills training, cooperative school business partnerships, and entrepreneurship training. Fair in all categories.
Anybody else have anything different to add? Hearing none, moving on. Economic development.
So based on the area that I was evaluating for the EMS substation, LMI, being in the downtown corridor, job creation, I believe is good. Business assistance is good. Employment training is good, and other economical development needs would be good as well. Obviously, that varies based on the South Berks project, but I believe the downtown area we've identified has adequate resources for those 4 categories.
Changes or amendments? Anybody? Okay. Now, section G is kind of a big picture. What are your top overview priorities? So this wouldn't be necessarily project specific, but kind of category specific. So thinking about economic development, infrastructure, stormwater, roads and bridge, housing rehabilitation, affordable housing, daycare, demolition of defunct properties. All those things are possible. This isn't going to be an open discussion to create a top 5 list that we look to get consensus on for this application.
So one of the top priority areas that I saw was stormwater improvements, and that's community-wide. And I don't know if I'd say this is from 1 to 5. I'm just listing off the top ones that I see. Transportation system improvements, that would be condition, safety, and system expansion. Redevelopment, and by redevelopment, I'm talking about properties, existing properties, or in areas where buildings have been torn down, redeveloping those areas in the core parts of town. Enhancements in emergency services and affordable housing. I know, Eric, you had a few others.
So I concur with the stormwater improvements in emergency services coverage, timely access to emergency health care, drug abuse treatment and prevention, and improvements to primary and secondary education.
So that's 10, and we need 5.
Yeah, some of those are actually,
They're kind of, well.
there's overlap for those as well. Anybody have some additional ones that they'd like to add or discuss? Yeah.
I hear a lot of talk about homelessness. I don't know how significant the numbers are. I see homelessness as related to housing affordability. Maybe that's a top priority, maybe it's not, but maybe it's something we should consider.
Rachel, do you want to speak a little bit about some of the city's results for I think you guys had homelessness stuff
Yes.
showed up on your survey, since Jeff City is within the county and you guys have a role in this as well.
So homelessness and housing in general is in regards to if it's single family, multifamily, transitional housing, housing across the board, across the continuum, was identified as a priority need when we did this assessment. And a little bit how we did the assessment. We started the process back in July, I believe. And we did sent out a survey, an needs assessment survey to the community. And I think 319 seems to be where we received over 300 responses. And stormwater was a big one. Housing was huge. We did tap into some of the child care. We did have some facility needs as far as EMS, fire, police. There were a lot of, and we'll include that in this package, but as far as like the city core, housing is and homelessness is a big deal that we're dealing with right now.
Does housing and homelessness go together, or are they two separate issues?
How I look at them together because of the funding availabilities that we have. We can kind of treat each step. So if you're looking at homelessness to home ownership, we're trying to fill the gaps along the way. So if it's anywhere for like RACS, rape and abuse crisis services, somehow getting a single mom with 3 kids into a home, and we work with a lot of the nonprofits. So yeah, there's different gaps and different needs. But if you kind of look across the city, maybe it's not happening in the county. We're not having any housing development right now. There's nobody building. And we have a lot of needs, so we are concerned. We've actually done hired a consultant to do a housing needs assessment, and I got the first bit back today before I came here, so I haven't even actually looked at it. But that'll tell us a little bit more and maybe give us a direction that we can all move in together.
There's probably more developable ground out in the county, and we're seeing a fair amount of developments happening. And as these happen, the houses go up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we know there's a need out there, the fact that, I mean, they're building houses quickly and they're selling quickly too, so.
Well, is the Otke development there, is that gonna be moderate income?
Which one?
The one, oh, they're building,
Is that the Trade Center?
Trade Center Parkway?
yeah,
Okay, that's in the city limits.
that's in city, okay.
Yeah.
Are they moving forward with anything?
Well, they did not get MHDC
Okay.
funding, so I'm not sure what their next step is.
Okay.
Most of what we're seeing is all single family. Not a whole lot of multifamily out in the county. There's
What are
probably,
the price ranges kind of generally for the average new home being constructed?
probably 250 to 350. I don't know, is multifamily housing, is that an issue? Is there?
It is. We call it the missing middle. So we have a housing that is either subsidized, which is decent. I'm not going to call it good, or we have the housing that is not adequate, and then we have rental housing, either apartments that are start off in the $800 to $900 range and then up, but we really have a gap. It seems, anecdotally, it seems like we need rental for within the $600 to $800 price range, based off of units, and we don't really have a lot of that. So we keep getting we don't have enough affordable housing, and then it becomes, well, do they have public transportation? It all kind of interlocks together. So like back to that original question, that's why we look at it as a whole, and then we kind of attack pain points that we recognize.
So I'd say just a general, as far as 1 through 5 category name, accessible or affordable housing, would that be the right term to use?
I think for the city, I can't remember if infrastructure popped first, because we also, stormwater, I'm sure you're familiar
I
with.
think your infrastructure is actually first.
Infrastructure probably popped first, housing might have been second or third. We also had an economic development component that popped up on the city survey.
Public works, infrastructure, housing, public
Yeah.
services is your priority needs ranked in order of importance. Where public works, infrastructure, housing, public services, economic development, education, community facility was kind of how they structured, and you're using kind of CDBG headings essentially for your eligible activity.
Right, and how we structured our survey is we basically took the document that you're all looking at and filling out right now and broke it down into a Survey Monkey and sent it out. And then when we got the results, we were able to plug it back in into the worksheet, and then we held 2 public hearings.
Yep. So we'll essentially have their support, and then we're just adding to that what your guys' priorities are. So I think they've got it covered, thinking of it in terms of Jeff City and the public input there. What we're looking for here is essentially adding to that the county's top priorities in your section here. So right now I've got just kind of top headings: stormwater, transportation, EMS, service and coverage, economic development, housing, access to healthcare, homelessness, which is something that was brought up by a community member, drug abuse treatment and prevention, and improved primary and secondary education. Those are on the list currently. Some of these we might be able to merge into access to healthcare and EMS services. We could think of those, and even though they're different issues to deal with, we could think of them together. Infrastructure projects more generally, but stormwater and transportation are kind of different topics there. But really, it's going to be what you guys think out of that list. Is there any other ones that we need to add to that, and then kind of prioritizing a top 5 out of that?
I don't think we need to add anything.
I'd probably break out stormwater from transportation system improvements.
Okay, keep those
Because
separate.
they are kind of separate, even though it's all falls under the umbrella of public works.
Yeah.
They're treated differently and assessed differently.
Or any of these that would fall out of the top 5, any of these that the county has responsibility for and it can have an impact on that would drop off their list as things you can actually influence.
I don't think we have a whole lot of control over education and those sorts of improvements from a county government standpoint.
Everybody agree to that?
I agree, yes.
Drug abuse treatment and prevention.
Really, that's gonna be more of a community partnership, you know, I mean, public health probably, you guys do it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I think was texting me. What was it?
But we're talking more about drug abuse prevention and those sorts of things.
Right, so I sit on the council for drug relief, and there is quite a bit of issues in the community now, which is youth, but with adults, I know Columbia has experienced a record number of opioid overdoses.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I've heard that we've had a lot, so I would put mental health and drug abuse also with access to care. You could probably kind of lump all of the healthcare access to care issues together if we need to consolidate them, but we definitely have those mental health and drug abuse issues in our community.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of instruction on how this form needs to be, how you guys structure your categories. There isn't any requirement that way. So if you guys want to add those, put those together, we can. So I've got drug abuse treatment prevention, mental health care access, and general health care access kind of all rolled into one category.
So based on what I've heard from the city, from public input is, you know, obviously stormwater is a priority, public services is a priority, homelessness is a priority. So I feel like those three should probably be the top, and then whatever, access to healthcare would be number 4.
Stormwater, you said, what was the other one? Public services, access to healthcare.
Homelessness.
Are you wanting to label it homelessness just by itself, or
Or,
have
well,
it
Housing.
Affordable housing, those are kind of,
Affordable housing / homelessness, or drop the homelessness as a component.
No, I think that's, you know, that was identified specifically in your, so I think leaving that combined.
Okay. And that leaves a couple of things. So we have transportation, economic development. I think those are just the final 2. So we really got 4 categories, and four out of 5 selected with 2 left that we have on our original list.
So read them again. Stormwater.
Stormwater, public services, which would that cover? So what does public services entail, just for my?
Public safety.
Public safety. There you go.
And EMS would fall under that?
Right.
Okay.
Stormwater, public safety, affordable housing / homelessness, access to healthcare, and then either development, economic development, or
Transportation issues, yeah. That would cover kind of, and dropping off the education component. I think that covers all the ones that have been mentioned so far.
I think transportation probably falls a little bit more under things that we can control, not only from providing services, but infrastructure, roads, you know, all of those other sorts of things. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah. I know, economic development is big. Would you rank that more higher than economic development?
Well,
I think so, only because personally that we could affect it. I mean, there's things that we can do, but it's harder for us as the county to do economic development, because that sometimes means subsidizing someone who says, but for your subsidy, I'm not coming to your community. That's tough for us to do. But it's easier to fix a street or build a bridge that everybody gets to use.
Well, if you built the street and have the bridges, then it will, you have to have the infrastructure to have the businesses come here.
True.
So it's kind of step one.
They drive each other.
Yeah.
Bad transportation systems, the
transportation systems go up, so the economic development comes in, but then the economic development drives the transportation systems. Okay, so like at stormwater, public services, public safety is kind of a joint category. Access to healthcare, affordable housing, homelessness, and transportation as the list. Now we need to order them. And EMS services would fall under the public health and public services and public safety component, and obviously stormwater under the stormwater category. So how do you guys want to prioritize?
Well, I think for the purpose of why we're here, public safety and stormwater ought to be one or two, whichever way you look at it. And not only that we have these projects, but I think they're important. Stormwater comes up on everybody's radar as being an issue. Public safety is big all around, so.
So based on the results of the city, I would be comfortable putting stormwater as number one, public safety services number two, then affordable housing, homelessness as three. Access to healthcare would be four, and transportation.
Any comment, changes?
I'm good with that.
Yep.
I'll put this into the joint document. And anybody that has one of the surveys filled out, feel free to turn it in. And I'll include that with the packet for comments. And that concludes the needs assessment component of that public hearing.
Okay.
Lincoln, could you just give us a overview of what happens next, and assuming a successful completion of the application and funding?
So if you got awarded, so for the stormwater project, I believe you guys have got a lot of the design kind of already in the bag, which is, I think you're asking almost entirely for essentially grant administration and construction dollars. So I believe you would need to do an environmental, sign the grant agreement, get an environmental review completed, which we would complete as part of the grant administrative services for you. And then design is going on concurrently. And you guys have got most of that done, and then it's just going out to bid for construction. So stormwater and road projects, Cdbg wise, are usually completed in about a year from grant start to grant end. Maybe a year and a half if you run into some kind of environmental issue with the Corps. I know the Corps has changed their rules again with regard to what they consider waters of the United States. So if we end up having to go through the permitting process for that, that can add some time to it. But if you're cutting down trees, that also can trip up fish and wildlife. So those are some of the environmental concerns that can come up with stormwater projects, road projects. But I don't see why it should take any more than a year start to finish. I can't speak to how fast it'll take Cdbg to approve grants. They've gone anywhere from what they used to do, which was about a month to 2 months from the time of submission of the application to award. But it has taken as long as 6 months to hear back on whether you're awarded a grant. So I can't speak to how long that takes, but I would say we're probably a year and a half out from being complete, having a project completed.
Okay.
Barring any kind of interference.
So how that plays into our scheduling, we would probably bid it towards the end of the year. It's most certainly going to be a construction year next year.
How long for construction? I think there was a timeline that the engineer, that you guys have put in there, but I.
Probably figure at least 6 months.
At least 6 months
Okay.
for this scope.
Yeah, for this type of work. And, yeah.
So you're looking at summer 23, end of the summer 23, really.
Okay, thank you. So your mission is complete for today, is that correct?
For
that.
The public hearings. We have
Okay.
the public
Yeah, now we have the EMS.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other discussion on public hearing?
Oh, one other comment, make sure everybody signs in who's here today.
Okay.
Because I will need a copy of the sign-in sheet.
Okay,
for the-
so we will close that public hearing and open a public hearing for the CDBG funding for the EMS station.
Alright, make sure I've got the right, some paperwork in front of me. This one. All right, again, briefly, my name's Lincoln Brown with the Missouri Regional Planning Commission. Kind of go through a brief overview. So this public hearing is a little different since we've essentially completed the needs assessment as part of the other project. And Jeff City's completed as part of theirs. This is to fulfill the component of essentially giving the community a chance to, again, this was advertised in the paper for 7 days, or allowing for 7-day notice for the public hearing. So again, any public comment on this project is welcome. This public hearing is focused on the following criteria: the seriousness, immediacy, uniqueness, and lack of sufficient local funds for completion of the project. So essentially, kind of why are we going after Cdbg COVID funds for this? And is it a good fit for the community? And you guys want to move forward with an application, essentially. So it's making sure that the community is on board with this particular proposal is kind of this process. Again, this is a joint project between the city and county. As the primary, where the location of the facility, even though it's going to be a county facility, is located within Jeff City, which necessitates a joint application, with the city being the lead applicant, even though it does span into the county for the residents that will be served by this station. The project location, the proposed location, is on the corner of McCarty and Adams. It is currently a parking area. There's nothing else located on that lot. The service area for this, the kind of defined service area for that this facility will service is low to moderate income, I believe actually right at 51% or just a little over, which again extends out into the county. I think there's kind of a description in the public hearing that kind of states the boundaries of it, roughly of where their service area is defined. The project will be roughly $2.8 million. This is Cdbg COVID, and for priority activities, you can apply for up to $2 million. So the county is asking for $2 million, and we'll fund the remaining $800,000 roughly in change of the project from county funds. So I guess I'll open it up. Eric, if you want to speak a little bit to the needs for this particular project and why we're applying for COVID funding.
So, obviously, as we know, in order to provide ambulance coverage downtown, we are currently operating temporarily out of the law enforcement center, which always presents some unique operational considerations given prisoner movement, taking up room in the Sally Port, all of those sorts of things. Not necessarily an ideal location. For the calendar year of 2021, that station ran approximately 2,900 calls. Our next busiest station checked in right above 1,900 calls. So that's another 1,000 calls for service over our next busiest station that crew has performed. Obviously, those numbers suggest that we need to look at placing another ambulance somewhere in that downtown corridor. Unfortunately, the jail just does not provide the room to do that. So in order to improve service, improve response times, we would like to explore building a station. For funding specifically, the reason why we need to look at Cdbg money is that there are other public safety needs we've identified for sales tax funds and those sorts of things, such as joint communications, also replacing and maintaining our fleet of ambulances, all of those sorts of things that sales tax money can be primarily used for. So we're proposing the $2 million Cdbg grant to assist us in building the station.
That's the structure of the project, and if there's anybody in the room that has questions regarding the initiation and completion of the project, or timeline, timeframe, how the funding is going to be structured.
Frank?
Yeah.
I'm curious about how much parking will be displaced, and if this is a problem, and if so, if there is any arrangement made for these people to park somewhere else.
The parking is the sheriff lot.
I'll just tag on to Frank. Thanks for bringing it up, because I was going to. As of yet, I still don't have any idea of what's going to happen with parking for my staff, and we need something that's, and I wrote this down to make sure I get it right, convenient, accessible, and as safe as it is right now for my staff. So I haven't heard any talk about it. I'm not opposed to this project. I think what he's wanting to do is not a bad idea, but I am concerned about the safety for my staff and about the convenience and the accessibility for my staff. We shouldn't have to walk, for instance, from Adams Street, from the building up for the old library building that y'all bought. We shouldn't have to walk from there. But I'm just saying, I'm not opposed to this project, but I have concerns on parking for my staff.
So
Yeah,
to
I
add
agree.
on to what the sheriff was saying, I was going to revisit this today and ask that we formally approach the church about purchasing some more parking spaces just immediately north of the proposed facility. We had some preliminary discussions that thought they maybe would be open to that, so.
I had talked to Dr. Yates with the Missouri Baptist Convention. Right now, I don't think there is, but I think we can maybe work out something to basically utilize some of their parking. And, at one time, the Baptist Convention had a lot of empty space, but I think they've got some tenants now in there that are utilizing it too. But I think we can work with the Baptist Convention to provide some parking, even if we have to pay for it.
What's the amount of parking that would be required to replace the parking that's lost? I guess your usage of is what I'm curious of.
We can-
The number of cars you need to park there.
Well, so that's a twofold question. One is, right now, probably 15 spots is what we're looking at. But if we ended up with our facility, if we end up doing a build out, that means there'd be more staff coming in, and I would need more parking coming in. If we do a build out and add another 180 beds to my facility. And that's not saying we're gonna do it. I mean, eventually we will do it, but I don't know how soon that's gonna be in the future, but we would need to start and have about 15 slots.
Rachel, do you know that lot across the street, is that fully utilized?
It's not, that's what, I would approach the city to see if you could lease some spots, because it's not full, and definitely the lower lot is not. The lower lot is prone to flooding when it occurs. It is in the floodplain, but that upper lot,
Okay.
if you're talking about 15 spots, it's
There's,
definitely 15 spots.
we also looked just to the east of the Missouri Baptist parking lot. There were also additional city-owned parking there as well, so.
Yeah, which is really not
I don't know if that's
utilized.
convenient for you, but.
It doesn't, for my, anecdotally, it doesn't, but Britt Smith with the city would be who to talk to about the lease spot, the amount of spots available.
We're not gonna just kick you out, John, and say,
Well, and like I said, I'm not opposed to the project. We need to, 2,900 calls for service. You can tell right there. That shows you. And the problem with his ambulance in the Sally Port is, if we're transporting a prisoner, if they're in transit right there, we won't open the doors. So if they get a call, they're gonna have to wait in their ambulance until that prisoner's put away. Now, we tell our people, if you see the ambulance guys going out briskly, they don't run. But if they walk briskly after their ambulance, for us to go ahead and lock down the prisoners so we can get them out of there as soon as possible, it still causes some issues for him. So I get that, and I'm not opposed to the project. Like I said, I would be remiss if I did not bring up the safety concerns for my staff.
I think there are sources for finding parking for you in the immediate.
We could park right there behind the annex, and you just move all those people over to that other one. See, no one has to walk up a hill then.
Well, Jeff's in charge of parking, but he's not here. He's off in Mexico, so. I haven't seen any selfies of Jeff though, so I don't know. Okay, we digress. Okay.
I will ask, because I asked on the other project, Eric, your email was listed on the public hearing notice. Did you receive any formal?
We did not receive any public comments.
One of the things I'd like to mention, we have been working with the city, and we're going to execute a memorandum of agreement with the city. We both agree with the final draft, and I think it's on the city's agenda for this evening. And one of the little things I tweaked in there, on an original draft, it said we're going to serve the citizens of Cole and Jefferson City. And I made a point to say this place, this new station will, let me get the terminology here, offer a higher quality of life for all who live, work, and visit Cole County. Because I don't know if you ever take a census of the patient that you're moving, but this station will cover an area that is highly concentrated during the day in terms of workers at the Capitol, visitors to the Capitol and the Capitol complex. It's more than just the citizens, although the citizens in that community or area get us to qualify under the LMI rules. It is an expansion of the safety of all the citizens who live, work, and visit this area of town.
And even at night, I get calls still every now and then. You'll see an ambulance sitting in the parking lot there below Simonson. You'll see ambulances sitting as far as Gerbs East. And people go, your ambulance people are goofing off. We're staging ambulances in this area so that they can respond quicker to an emergency call. This station's it's gonna alleviate a lot of that, just because it isn't a central area. But you know, when you explain to people that sitting in the ambulance in the cold or in the heat, it doesn't work very well. So this is a great location. It's going to solve a lot of our issues.
I think you also mentioned in your narratives, it's going to provide additional space for other training purposes.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've talked initially about with Architects Alliance is, you know, creating a classroom and some of the admin space that, similar to what Jefferson City Fire Department has done out at Station 2, where it can be a community classroom to you know, teach CPR courses or, you know, host individual meetings. If we can find that space, you know, we can offer that ability. And the other thing would be is that having some of the space be utilized by the sheriff to store some equipment and open up additional space in the law enforcement center. So it will be a positive impact not only for emergency response, but for the community as a whole.
Anybody else have anything else to add?
Yes, Frank?
I'd like to hear from the sheriff about use of the space that's going to get freed up if the ambulances move out of his facility.
So I actually have the armored vehicle that's sitting in my sally port right now, and I'd be able to move it over to that facility. And we have a green ambulance that we use on SWAT, and it's sitting over at VSB, so it's farther away from me for me to be able to utilize. So it would be beneficial for me to be able to put 2 rigs in there if possible once the build out is done. So,
And do you have like parking space under there that's utilizable by your personnel?
on the new facility,
And your existing jail?
I do, but the ambulance and the bat does not fit underneath it. I can't put anything real big underneath there because of the height restriction.
I mean, if the ambulance people moved out, could your people use those parking spaces?
No, because the parking spaces he's using is up inside my secure sally port.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I will say that, you know, having our ambulance in that sally port really does, I mean, with the bat, the ambulance, I mean, you're basically limited to 2 or 3 spots. You know, if you put another vehicle in there, it gets real tight real quick.
Well, and not only that, but so our jail's operational, so whenever we get supplies, they come by tractor trailer. And while we don't let them pull in there anymore because it keeps hitting the damn doors, but when they back in though on the other direction, it blocks EMS from being able to leave. So they actually, whenever we get a delivery, EMS has to leave the facility so that they still will be able to respond. So it'll be, like I said, it's gonna, I mean, it's working right now. They do an outstanding job down there. But it can work a whole lot better if that facility was to come to life, as long as there's parking.
Frank, you maybe need to go down there and just let the sheriff show you that.
I always like a tour.
Sure, you can do it.
Put him in the back of a car and
Yeah, we can.
take him down. But it's,
Get rid of jail food. I'm just saying.
I'd like to ask Rachel her thoughts on the project as the representative from the city here for the application.
The city wholeheartedly supports this project and the location. So whatever support that we can give you would be great. And now that we've got a draft of the MOU, I think that was the only thing that was holding us up. So we would, let's get this going.
Hmm.
You know, I think it's very rare that we have the ability to do a project that would benefit every single citizen that steps foot in our county, and this is one of those projects.
I agree.
That's all we need. For process moving forward, as you said, we've got to get the MOU signed, and I think that's on the city's agenda for tonight. Do you know when you guys will sign from your end?
Right
How about
now.
right now?
Right now, okay. And then also David will need to come stop by and sign also, so we need to set up a time for him to come in. Whether it's after the Jeff City signed or however it needs to happen. The next thing that needs to happen after that is to formally, you guys need to pass a resolution to formally sign the application. So as soon as your very next meeting, that should be on the agenda.
We could even speed that up by having a special in the 24 hours from now to do it. That would help.
I gotta finish it. So there's,
Okay.
I gotta finish putting all the stuff together.
All
I should
right.
have it done by the end of the week.
Okay,
On
we'll
Friday?
put it on the agenda for next week then, next Tuesday. Is that okay, next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll essentially be the last thing, and we'll submit that day. That's what I intend.
All right.
And I've got to get in line with the mayor also, but.
Sure. She's back today.
Yeah.
All right.
So, not to get too far off topic here, but to circle back to timelines, obviously we've encumbered that money for Architects Alliance to continue doing the design. We've done the preliminary design, however, we have not moved forward yet. So I guess my question is, do we want to wait to see where this ends up, or would you like me to give them the okay to start with some of the more formal construction documents?
I'd like to give you the okay to do that, and I think if you told them to watch the city council meeting tonight, and if they want another level of assuredness, they'll see that happen tonight. But yes, I can't see any reason why we would slow that process down.
One comment to that, and it's regards to CDBG formality. So you guys are committing to $800,000 in match. Essentially, if design is part of that match, and you can't have anything prior to grant award as part of your match. So if you complete that activity, you won't be able to consider that as part of your match.
I think because we're going to go 2.8 plus on this thing, it really doesn't matter, does it? I mean, we've done the first 16,000. Is that what it was?
It's 14.5.
14.5, and we were told that preliminary it couldn't be used. But if we would use more money for planning, it just takes less for mortar and bricks, right? So I don't really see that as an issue. We would.
No, I want to keep moving.
We're committed to making this happen.
Yeah, it's.
I will have a conversation with Carrie and the folks at Architects Alliance.
Okay. So Lincoln, have you formally closed the?
I haven't, like it's on you guys.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Do we have any other discussion? Then we will formally close the public hearing.
And in connection with what we were doing here, I'm going to make a motion that the presiding commissioners sign for the county the memorandum of agreement, which is in front of you and which is in front of the city council later today.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lincoln, I want to thank you. I want to thank Rachel too, because I've been looking for source of revenue to build this station for 3 years probably. And then Rachel, we were looking at Adams and all this other stuff. She goes, duh, you got the lot right there. So I appreciate, she's pretty good.
I want to echo Sam's comments and the regional planning group. You're excellent. The county and city really haven't been able to utilize you much because of the LMI issues before, but because of carving this out the way they have, it's ingenious on your part or whoever drilled into that.
It was a group effort.
Okay, and to thank the city for its
Yes.
cooperation and being the lead recipient. Were you the sub-applicant or the sub?
Essentially the pass-through.
I'm sorry,
We're the pass-through.
you are the,
You're the
yeah,
pass-through.
you're the
Yeah.
pass-through, but it took all parties working together to make this happen.
Cdbg is a difficult program, and I'm glad we're able to get through the finish line. It's not easy, even just for uncomplicated projects, and this is not an uncomplicated project. So.
Very good.
Well, I do want to thank
Thank you.
David too, because he called me and said, hey, there's an opportunity.
He's been
And I'm
pushing
like,
on it, yeah.
I'm like, whoa,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay. We will go back to our agenda, approval of change order on 209 and 210 Adams Street projects.
Good morning. While I was gone in December, y'all decided to make a change on our design and build over 209. We met with them after I got back with Jeff Helsher, Commissioner Helsher, made some changes. This was all sent to you via email. Commissioner Helsher and myself recommend going ahead with the changes, holding off on the HVAC until a further date and time for 9/31. Questions?
No, we just need to keep moving ahead.
One of the pluses that has kind of been uncovered or recognized here is to assist the county clerk with the storage of
Correct.
voting machines, which we put in rented space before, and we can
Quarter.
we can save that out-of-pocket expense that we've been spending. Correct? Good. Are we talking about 210 today as well, or is 209 only?
It's just 209.
That's what I thought.
There's no
Okay.
changes in 210.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the change order that you just described, the 31, what is the number?
31,931.
31,931. And that's with GBH?
Correct.
GBH contractors.
I will second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
Do we have any other issues? Any old business?
A motion to stand in recess until 4:30?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.